Okay, thank you. By the way, we just had a rebranding of my company. We are now known as Kinma Energy Corporation from the old Transasia Oil and Energy Development Corporation. All right, let me start by giving you this outline, the development in the Philippines, the challenges, and mention about pros and cons, and the role of storage, role of academia, and role of the private sector. Actually, mahaba yung binigay na time sa akin, hanggang 3:35 ba? We'll do this in 30 minutes and spend the rest for question and answer. All right. In terms of challenges, these are some of the more pervasive challenges. Actually, these are all motherhood statements. But we'll show you some details later on. We have the technical issue, the economic issue, and just to share with you some short-term solutions. That is from my own personal point of view, and just to state at this point in time that there is a great impact to the grid, which are underestimated by consumers and politicians. Okay, this is the, can you read this? I hope you can read the numbers. Now, these are the renewable energy summary, but when we say RE, it excludes geothermal. In other words, these are just the 4 technologies that are qualified for the so-called feed-in tariff. Everybody knows feed-in tariff, you know? Okay, well, feed-in tariff is a special rate given to these 4 technologies. Iba yung sa solar, iba yung sa wind, and I forgot the numbers already, I don't have it here, but you know, these are special rates relatively higher than the rates that you are, relatively higher than the rates that you pay coal plants, even geothermal for that matter. And pag titignan nyo yung Meralco bill ninyo, siguro pag-uwi nyo sa bahay, tignan nyo yung mga Meralco bill ninyo, there's a feed allowance item there. It's called feed all. That's feed allowance, where each and every consumer is paying to support the development of this technology in the system. Alright, you will notice that the grand total for wind that has been operational is about 394 megawatt. That is the first block over there on the top. Solar is about 526. Hydro is 26, and biomass is 101. Suffice it to say at this point in time that in terms of those that has been awarded the feed-in tariff, hydro and biomass are undersubscribed. But wind and solar are oversubscribed. For solar it is 500. For wind, initially it was 250, and then added some numbers, so it became 394. If you look at items B and C, those that are in the pipeline, you'll notice that there are about 1,000 of wind, about 1,700 of solar, about 600 of hydro, and about 125 of biomass. Okay, so I just want you to appreciate the magnitude of the projects that are online and about to be ready for construction. But let us talk specifically about solar. The Item A there is what had been presented in the previous slide. Item B is the list or the summary projects which are already completed, okay, and they are already operating. But because of the limits on the installation target of solar of 500 megawatt, which means that only about 500 megawatt will be awarded the feed-in tariff, this 420 megawatt do not have any feed-in tariff. They are not qualified for it, and therefore they are just being paid the spot market price, which is very much lower than the feed-in tariff, and therefore I would say that they should be suffering from the economic point of view. So, in reality, there are about 900 megawatts of solar operating, right? So 900 megawatts of solar operating, about 390 of wind, all right, so magkano na about 1.3, and about 100 of biomass hydro, that's about 1,400. And the peak demand of Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao is roughly about 12,000 megawatt. So roughly in terms of peak demand, that's about 10%. Okay, so I wanted to appreciate those numbers. Okay. All right. Globally, worldwide, in 2004, wind was about, in terms of installed capacity, wind was about 1.3%. Solar is 0.1% for a total installed capacity of all types of technology of about 3,800 gigawatts. Right? So just get the percentage and you will more or less know the total gigawatt of wind and solar in 2004. In 2014, wind has grown to 6% of installed, and solar has grown to about 2.9% of installed. However, the installed megawatt is about 6,180 gigawatts. So I did not compute anymore whether in terms of gigawatt there was an appreciable increase or not, but in terms of percentage share, it has already increased over 10 years. In terms of production, and I guess we'll be going into this as an issue, wind share in terms of production, that is energy. Iba yung capacity, iba yung energy, di ba? Okay? They're all electrical, electronics. So you should know the difference between megawatt and kilowatt hours. Okay. Otherwise, you better drop. Where was I? Okay, in terms of production kilowatt hours, okay, we contributed about 3%. So in terms of installed, it is 6%, but its contribution in terms of kilowatt hour is 6%. For solar, it is 2.9%. In terms of production, it is 0.9%. So this brings us to the first issue of the economics of renewable energy. Okay. And this is, I guess, one of the disadvantages that we see right now, especially in our country, wherein we are always complaining that we have one of the highest rates in Asia. This is the issue of the price versus the issue of resource constraint. All right. In reality, the EPC price, this EPC is engineering, procurement, construction. This is a turnkey price when you build a power plant. You build a coal, you build geothermal, you build hydro. Okay, if you just sign one group and turnkey, They give you everything. After some time, they just deliver you the plant. The EPC price of solar and wind are competitive. No? Wind, coal. So yun ang sinasabi nilang competitive na yung renewable, solar and wind with coal. But that for me is just the EPC price. Fortunately, because of the resource constraint, so you'll notice in the first data that solar is about 2.9 and it can only produce 0.9. Then because of the resource constraint, you now divide that investment over a smaller kilowatt hour. And therefore, the price per kilowatt hour, which we are paying, is high. Okay? Even if you take away the fact that there is no fuel involved in solar and wind, while in coal, there is you have to pay for coal, okay? Still it is high. Okay? Now, in our modeling, we're using 16% capacity factor for solar. In other words, it will only produce 16% of the time. And for wind, we're using 32% in our modeling. Now, so average monthly capability, we use 32%. The maximum during high winds, okay, is about 58%, and the minimum is at 7%. For solar, we're using an average about 16% max, okay, during periods when you have sunny days, especially summer, that's about 20%, and minimum 6 hours daily availability, roughly about 13%. Okay, now, global experiences. Okay. Wind is not constant, right? It's not always there. Okay? Usually you have high winds during what is called the amihan, Roger. Okay? And during Hamagan, where right now, wind is not as strong as Hamagan, as amihan, all right? And of course, for solar, you have cloudy and sunny days, right? Now, globally, for wind, the annual equivalent operating hours is about 2,000 hours. So how many hours in a year? It's about 8,760. So that's roughly 23% utilization factor. So you compare that with the utilization percentage of coal, about 85%. That's against wind of 25%. So in terms of just the capital investment, the cost per kilowatt hour for wind will be 85 over 25 times that of coal. Okay, it's probably about 4 times. Okay, so 4 times 2 pesos for coal, that's 8 pesos, that is roughly the feed-in tariff of wind. Solar. The same study showed that the annual equivalent operating hours for solar, this is worldwide, it's about 1,200 hours. Okay. That's about 14% out of 8,760. So again, compared with coal, that is 85 over 14, right? It's about 6 times. Okay? Times 2 pesos, that's 12, although the feed-in tariff for solar is very much less than that. Okay. What are the prevailing costs globally? In other countries where the load factor is high, in Brazil you get wind as high as 50% load factor. Okay. In Morocco, your solar can be as high as 30%, etc. Now, in addition, in other countries, they have already shifted from the feed-in tariff to what is called the auction, parang bidding. Sabi na, my installation target is 500 megawatt. Those who wants to be part of it, you bid what price you will give to the government. Now, because of that, and you will be surprised by these numbers, the lowest so far, currently, as a result of this, and take into consideration higher load factor compared to the average, the lowest for wind is about $41 per megawatt hour. So per kilowatt hour, that's about 0.041. If you multiply that by 47.50, that's about 1 peso 95 centavos. Tama ba? Okay. Tama ba? Tama ba ang multiplication na? The feed-in tariff is about 8 pesos, 7 pesos in the Philippines. Okay? For solar, the lowest is $60 per megawatt hour. Okay. So per kilowatt hour, that's about 2.85. Okay. So kung ganito yung presyo, talagang mababa. Okay. Because coal is roughly about, the current price of coal is about 380 to 420. So talagang competitive if this is the case. So auction can lower it, but unfortunately, the load factor that you will get in the Philippines is nowhere 50% in terms of wind, it's nowhere 30% when it comes to solar. Okay? So the resource constraint in the Philippines, this is still a challenge when it comes to the economics. As I said, at certain locations, you can get as high as 50%, such that, for example, in Morocco, the lowest auction price that they got is for wind is about $28 per megawatt hour. It's about 1.33 pesos. Okay. For solar, wherein you have 30% load factor, first quarter of 2016, the price is $30 per megawatt hour. It's about 1.425 pesos per kilowatt hour. So worldwide, auction has dropped prices significantly from the feed-in tariff. And of course, the location with high wind and solar PV load factor, including low grid connection cost, that is a factor in the reduction of these prices. So when people say that, you know, mababa na, competitive na yung solar, competitive na yung wind, okay, these are the factors that you should look at. What's the capacity factor that is being involved? What's the cost of the connection? Right? And of course, what is the competition? Okay. The next issue here is, we've already talked about the yearly or seasonal and daily variability. I think globally they don't want to use the word intermittent, right? Because when you say intermittent, you cannot forecast it. But today, there are sophisticated forecasting models. Kung hindi kayo sa mathematics, there are sophisticated forecasting models that can forecast wind and solar. So, sabi lang nila na you just have to deal with the yearly or seasonal variation and the daily variability. Now, the issue of reserve, which is the one at the lower one, when you need to increase reserve, is if the share of this variable renewable energy sources. They are now called VRES, variable renewable energy source, becomes a significant share of the grid. Right? We talk about roughly 10% for the Philippines. In Germany, it's almost 100% of the peak. In Denmark, it's 90%, and in Spain, it is 70%. And they're now having problems with the requirement for reserve. Okay? In one country, where the peak is about 36 gigawatt, the presence of this variable renewable energy has left about only 22 megawatt for the what they call the traditional fleets, yung mga coal, gas, oil, and the bigger hydros. Okay? So that's 32 down to 22 gigawatts. Unfortunately, during the evening when there's no sun, they have to call on about 14 gigawatts of reserve to ramp up in the evening to provide this slot. Okay? Now, in the Philippines, the requirement for reserve is about 18%, roughly, and that is standard. Okay? What is 14 out of 36? It is about 40%. And the reserve is not free. Hindi libre yung reserve. Binabayaran niya. Okay. So, the impact on the cost of the solar and wind in the Philippines does not yet take into account the cost of reserve, because so far, at 10%, hindi pa na-fulfill ng grid yung requirement of reserve. That's why, if there are proponents who wants that this will have a higher percentage of the peak, then eventually the problems that the other countries are facing with respect to the reserve will now come in. Right? The reserve cost of these countries have increased twofold as a result of the presence of all of this variable renewable energy. And that's why people are talking about hybrid between gas and solar, etc. This is just baloney. It's nothing that asking the gas to be your reserve. And you'll have to pay for it anyway. Okay? So, I've talked already about that global experience, okay? Such that the traditional fleet, what they call, like in Germany, their coal, their gas, and their oil, their operating hours have become less and less. Okay? And therefore, operating hours is representative of the capacity utilization. Right? Naturally, if the capacity utilization is less or the capacity factor is less, okay? In other words, you produce less kilowatt hours, the cost per kilowatt hour also increases. So nagiging double whammy yung na yun. May feed all ka na for all the solar, yung reserve will be more, and yet the cost of your reserves will be higher than if the variable renewable energy are not present. Okay, so in Germany, ang experience nila is that prices has gone up because of these things. Of course, kaya nila yun, mayayaman sila. So, not much of a problem. Okay. What about the advantages? Well, let's start from the bottom. Naturally, if you displace coal or gas or oil, you reduce your importation of fossil fuels. So you save on precious dollars exchange. The other one that is very obvious that no emission and use it for CO2 mitigations, but of course there are other environmental issues. For solar, the land use is a problem, especially so that they don't want agricultural lands now to be converted to industrial under the new administration. Noise is a problem with wind. We have a wind farm in San Lorenzo Guimaras during the first few months of its operation. The people were complaining about the noise, but now they got used to it. It's less noisy than the noise coming from the tricycles on the road. Sanay na sila, so okay. And then they talk about bird strikes for wind, but so far in our wind farm we have not experienced this. Now, the other thing that has been talked about as the benefit of the variable renewable energy is that the spot market price has gone down. You're familiar with the spot market? Okay, very good. It has gone down, and in the Philippines, I think it has gone down by an average of peso per kilowatt hour. Worldwide experience shows the same. All right. In Europe, in one of the countries, the electricity market price, taking out first the photovoltaic, has dropped by about 14 euros per megawatt hour lower. Okay? That's about from 40 to 25. And during the peak, when there is solar, it drops further by another 5.5 euros per megawatt hour. Right? Now, unfortunately, the so-called balancing cost and ancillary, which I discussed, you need higher reserve, higher cost, etc., plus the support on the feed-in tariff. Unfortunately, the increases in costs is much more than the reduction in the spot market. So overall, there will be a net increase. Now, in the Philippines, I said increases fit all irony or fallacies that in the Philippines, most of the distribution utilities, essential all in Metro Manila, Meralco, has long-term and medium-term contracts at a fixed price. It's getting only about sometimes as high as 20% to as low as 10% from the spot market, which means that only 20% or 10% of its volume is benefiting from the lower western price. The rest are all fixed. Right? And so I don't know how it is, whether because of the feed oil is 12 centavos, whether that reduction that Meralco is getting for its 20 or 10% will be down to about more than 12 centavos reduction in price of electricity to your bills. Okay? So that's where the give and take is when it comes to the so-called lower western price. Okay? Now, I talk about ancillary kanina. So, in Europe, the increase in cost of the reserve as a result of this one, I said twice, about from 3.06 euro per megawatt hour to about 7.07 megawatt hour. Right? So, more than double, of course, because of this one. Okay. What are these numbers? This again pertains to solar PV and wind. The first column shows you the megawatt installed of these two technologies in terms of the peak demand, okay? 5, 10, 18, so. The next column shows you the energy produced if the capacity factor is 25%. Okay? This means that at present, roughly 10% tayo on the one, including biomass, etc. So far, it is only generating about 3.33% of the total kilowatt hours. So if you talk of savings in CO2 emissions, okay, if this displaces coal, then you're only displacing 3.33% of the total in the system. Okay. In here on the 1, 2, 3, 4, on the fourth column, this is in terms of the base, which is coal. Notice that if it is 10% of the base, then you're only displacing 2.5%. I don't know if cost-benefit-wise this is an effective way of mitigating CO2. On the other hand, the other yellow there on the second column, if you want the impact to be 10% of the energy, okay, then your installation should be roughly about 30% of the installs. Okay. So you're getting closer now to a situation where you might probably have to increase your reserve. Okay. And if these are all qualified for feed-in tariff, right now we have 10%. The feed-in tariff is already 12 centavos. If you triple it, siguro 6 euro, 30, right? Plus your increase in the reserve cost. Okay. Sabi nila na battery will be a disruptor. Once may battery na raw, okay na yung solar and wind. Right? Well, depende sa cost ng battery. And of course, once you put in a storage, it increases your capital. Okay? As of 2 years ago, the cost of battery is the same as the cost of a solar panel, okay, on the same unit. So you double your investment. Okay? I don't know the economics of this. Okay? So most probably you'll find storage to be applicable if you are in an island operation, you're not connected to the grid. But if you're connected to the grid, since you are allowed to sell everything that you produce anyway, then you might as well sell it to the grid. Okay? Or you go into a decentralized generation. Okay? I think if you have your own solar at your home, you can call that as an island operation. Your home is an island, it is decentralized, your home is a decentralized unit. But if you want to take yourself off the grid, you need a storage battery for yourself. I don't know how you size batteries, etc. But I guess batteries will also have a cost, and therefore the economics should be taken into consideration. Right? Okay. People have said that because of the akar na yung cost ng solar and wind with coal, etc. Tama, akar na sa EPC, sabi na we can go all renewable. Right? Now this is the annual load curve of Luzon. Okay? So, magbabari yan, And this is dictated by the load, not by the supply. Tayo nag-dictate niyan as user. Siguro, a better figure will be the monthly. Okay? Now, as I've said, this variation in load is dictated by the consumer. Not sumusunod lang yung supply yan. So imagine that you supply this with all wind and all solar. Do you think there's a guarantee that the solar and the wind can follow the load? Yes or no? That's the reason why the solar and wind are called energy sources rather than capacity sources. Okay. Pag sinabi mo sa solar, I need 5 megawatts at this time, hindi ka sigurado mabuo yung 5 megawatts. And that's the reason why it cannot follow the load. That's why in Germany, wherein the solar and wind is already 100% of the peak, they still need all those reserves simply to follow through. So, hindi mo rin matanggal lahat. So, kahit ilagay mo lahat, solar and wind to supply all requirement, you still need all of these things. Of course, nuclear cannot follow this. So, as I've said, in Germany, they are 100%, 50% is wind, and still they need the reserve. The same is true with Denmark. In Denmark, it's 80% wind. Spain is 70%, 60% of that is wind. Okay. Now, sabi nila na maybe you can follow this if you have a storage. Pwede. Okay. That's like a pump storage, that's like a storage hydro, you store water, then you can control the release of your water, and so you can provide capacity. Okay. But I don't know the economics. Okay. No study has been done yet. Okay. Now, so that's it for the advantages, okay, on disadvantages, REs. Okay. Let me now go to the role of the academics in here. Okay. I guess the role of the academic with respect to this is to do policy studies. Kasi it's only the academic that is unbiased. Kanang nagsasabi na dapat policy mo, itulak mo ang solar. Pag nagsasalita yung nagsusupply ng solar panel, business interest yun. Tapos sabi ng coal supplier, hindi po, Mr. President, dapat coal dahil kurang. Right? Business interest. Yung mga nagsasabing climate change, may mga support yan sa mga ibang businesses. Right, so I guess it is only the university, the academy, that can provide these unbiased policy studies for the renewables, especially so that when it comes to environment and cost, they are on opposing poles. Magka-oppose siya. Right? Because, as I've said, masyadong maliit yung capacity factor ng solar and wind sa Philippines. And that's the reason why price is relatively high. Okay. Now, and of course, with respect to the private sector, just like us, kung gusto yung supportahan yung solar and wind, I guess for the private sector point of view, siguro naman, kunting hinay-hinay sa profit. Meron naman yung masyadong PDD. If you really would like to support, okay, the policy, okay, to reduce emission, the private sector should also come in and contribute. Siguro naman, bawasan mo yung return on investment mo from 16 to 12 na lang. baka mas mura yung dito. Something like that. Okay? Now, finally, I guess in terms of the short-term solution, again, question mark, it is some studies. Maybe auction is one. Okay? Despite the low constraint, maybe we won't get a price equal to what I have mentioned, but I guess we could probably get a price lower than where we are right now. And the other one, which people are thinking about, is a carbon tax. When you talk with the economists, sabi nila, if it's not adopted worldwide, why will the Philippines adopt a carbon tax? Now, incidentally, this only addresses the economic component of the challenges. Yung technical, yung impact to the grid, etc., requirement for research, so I guess that's for the academic to study, kasi when it comes to the private sector, if we study it, we just take a look at the impact on our profitability. So, tatanong daw yung director ng Triple H, maganawan. We can come up with such kind of a study. I guess that's all. Thank you very much.
Any questions for the speaker? Questions? Yes. Kindly. Sige, pakilakasan na lang yung question. Pakilakasan na lang yung question.
What's the mission again?
What's the mission again? Oh.
Bakit ka na lang?
Yes.
Your question is, what is the vision of whom? Of the renewable energy? I think the most important vision there, if you take a look at the renewable energy law, is to really reduce carbon emission. So that's the reason why these technologies are being supported.
That answer your question. Any follow-up?
What's the plan?
What's the plan of? Okay, lapit ka na. Para ma-articulate ka ng maayos.
What should we do? What should we do? Yeah.
What should
What should we do?
What should we do? What's the plan?
Yeah, if you want the overall plan for this, I guess for me, it's the current administration posted. Kasi personally, I'm very biased. I look at these things only from the point of view of my company. I have already, tapos na ako doon sa policy making. So, maybe those who have no conflict of interest here can answer. Maybe Tito, kaibigan ko sa likod, tawa-tawa. It's really hard because of all the context. So for me to say how the government should go, right? Basta, okay, I'll say what the government is doing. Sabi nila, may commitment sila sa Paris to reduce emission. So they're trying to encourage yung technologies na to, right? However, sabi ng mga iba, mamahal naman yung kuryente. So, currently, the current administration has not acted on a proposal for a third round of feed-in tariff. Because right at the beginning of the term of this administration, sabi nila na ang aming pag-uukulan ng pansin is how to reduce the power rates. So once sinabi mo yun, tapos mag-approve ka ng third round of feed-in tariff, then convicted ka na naman. So for me, that's where we are. Ikaw, you want to say something about that? Hold up, friend.
Thank you very much, Secretary Baran. Actually, I'm a little confused myself, but you know the history of what we are doing now. Secretary Baran was the energy secretary when we had a big problem in the early 90s about power outages. So he gave us some solutions, implemented them, and of course there are some, we benefited from those activities, so we thank Dr. Baran for that. So the question now, of course, Sam, is that if you were to do it all over again, learning from the past 25 years, like what we have done in 1991 when you were the energy secretary, is there something that you, of course this is hindsight, so I hope there's no media here that will distort this answer. But if you were to do it all over again, is there something that you should have done differently? Yeah, because during because we had no more power, we had to encourage people to invest in high-cost energy. We have the diesel, the portable diesel plants, etc., with a guaranteed offtake. So that increases, we are at the mercy of these people who were supplying this electricity. But then that was a crisis. So that was a solution. But of course, later on, things changed, and maybe Dr. Baran can tell us if we have to go through this again, or if it happens again, then what are the things that we should do differently?
I think what did in the program, it was the 1997 financial crisis. Di ba kayo siguro pinapangalan? Okay. He do mention about the take-home pay. In other words, bayaran mo kahit hindi mo tinatanong. When we did the take-home pay at that time, it was based on a forecast. So based on ang alam namin, gagamitin natin. Kasi naka-forecast eh. Okay? And dalawa yung isa pala yung pinipriticize nila na mataas daw yung elasticity. Elasticity is the factor that you multiply the gross domestic product to get the increase in energy percent. So 6% GDP kung 1 ang elasticity mo 6. At that time we were using 1.5. Right? But elasticity has dropped to less than 1. So by that alone, medyo mataas na yung forecast. Tapos bumagsak pa ng economy because of the 1997, and we felt that in year 2000, 2001. Okay. I know that kasi yung pinasukan ko Union Cement at this time felt those drop in demand of cement. So those were the two things that prevented us from using what we contracted for, using fully what we had contracted for. But today, gamit na lahat yan. yung emergency diesel generators na mahal at that time, wala na yun. Nabenta na lahat yun. Wala na lahat yun. Except that, because of the problems in 2000, after 98 to 99, 2000, 2001, tumaas yung price ng electricity because of the take or pay. What the government did was to absorb it initially, hindi kinuha sa tao. Yun ngayon yung dinala doon sa so-called universal levy. Nandoon na yun. So, we are paying for the cost X years ago now. But yung actual cost ngayon ng power plant are now, despite the take or pay, are now being fully utilized, so wala nang impact yun ngayon. Besides, why go on a take or pay? At that point in time, one has to take the risk on the demand. Okay? Since National Power Corporation was a vertically integrated company, it has to take a risk on the demand. Okay? And ito ba yung demand ko? If I put in less than that, sisisirin ang apo ko. If I put in more than this, siguro konti lang sisi dahil yung increase lang pero may kuryente ka. So, whatever happens, you take on the demand risk. So, that's the reason why kung may pera yung gobyerno noon, we would have built the same megawatt capacity. Okay. Because we were forecasting a 10% of growth every year. So, we'll probably do the same thing dito. But if I had a better look into the future, if I had forecasted the 1997 financial crisis, I would have reduced my forecast of load growth. Kasi yung requirement ng 99 and 2000, sinimulan ng i-build in 1996. So pagka hinukay mo na yung lupa na yan, wala ka naman. No turning back. In 97 came in.
Any more questions? Questions for Dr. Gerard? Yes, sir.
Sir, magandang hapon po. Michael Badasa. In your slide, you mentioned that yung contribution ng academy is on policy analysis. Sir, from the top of your head, can you give us some of the most urgent, tapos ano ba yung ibang mga pwede ibang academy in terms of yung policy analysis? Thank you, sir.
Well, the EU economics already has done something on the energy mix, which probably includes SWAT. But yung kanilang ginawa is just on the economic side of it. Maybe yung IEEE can do the technical aspect of it. Ano ba talagang reserve kailangan? How will it impact on the... Kasi napapansin ng mga ibang countries ngayon, pati yung configuration ng grid nila, they think that it should be changed and to adapt to the requirement of this VRES. Now, what I read was just a general statement, so I don't know the details. Maybe those are the details that, of course, the problem is that you have to coordinate with AGCP. You know, there's some information that could probably be confidential that you're going to get, especially the cost. You know, the actual cost. So, but you know, it's a challenge to the academic and your senior students to do the research. contribute such kind of studies to the government. Kasi mahirap yung maliliit lang na nagkukonclude ka na, di ba? I think that's the problem with some people in government. Kunti lang kung minsan actually hindi galing studies yun galing sa kung ano yung gusto ng tao. So, dapat doon yung gawin namin ng agad.
If there are no more questions, sure, wala na ibang questions. Sayang. Okay, promise ko.
Hi, Zahid. My teacher also. What would be your take on going micro-scale renewables instead of mega-scale renewables?
It's one way to go, Mike. Okay, decentralized, especially for solar.
Yeah.
Because mayroon lang sa wind, medyo mataas yung mga kanila. But I guess for solar, you can really go decentralized micro. Kasi you save on the transmission and the distribution. In fact, ang challenge siguro sa academy is to design an old DC solar system for houses. Hindi ako magaling sa electronics, kaya nag-power systems ako. So, sabi ni Carl pala, sa ni Mike, ang problema daw, ang weak point daw doon sa solar system is the inverter. So, kung mag-old DC ka, tanggal yung inverter. Kasi, marami na naman doon, charger, DC. Meron na yata DC motor. Hindi na kayo turuan ng AC motor sa klase namin. Tatanong ako kung may LED na DC doon sa mga nagbebenta. Sabi nila wala rin. Pero hindi ba may LED na DC? I don't know. But we're setting up an experiment. We're putting up a booth. Parang an information booth in our wind farm in Guimaras. Inalis ko yung mga tao doon to put up an old DC system, solar panel. Tapos DC doon. Ewan ko kung saan sila magsusolis. Baka pwede mag-discover yung difficulty ng mga DC doon. Then, one of the things that we requested the College of Engineering in general is to do research on batteries. Because to me, this is critical to the decentralized system. No? So, hindi ko alam kung hindi rin ako magaling sa batteries. User lang ako. That would be probably a commercial thing that you can look at, an old DC solar EV system. Challenge yan sa mga estudyante.
Other questions? Going once. Questions?
Yes.
Since nobody wants to ask a question, I have another question. If you look at the present, since you mentioned that in the 97s, late third of the century, our problem with our implementation of policies was the reduced demand because of the financial crisis. So the demand that we were forecasting or predicting that would happen did not happen because of economic downturn. I would like to correlate that with what's happening now with oil prices. Remember, oil prices have been in the doldrums for a long time, and the reason is that the demand for oil has gone down because of policies that have been implemented in the past 40 years. Like in the US, it is the increased miles per gallon requirement of the government. So companies design vehicles that would consume less. And that's what's happening now. That's why we have more cars on the road globally, but they consume less fuel on a total basis. So the demand is a very important quality. Now in terms of electrical energy requirements, is there such a thing that might happen? Meaning that the more we use, the less we use because of LED, etc. So we have the same amount of light, but we are consuming 10% only of the electricity. Is there such a possibility?
Actually, Tito, it's happening. They've already phased out incandescent. If you look at the elasticity of ozone, it's already less than 1. And for me, that is symptomatic of energy efficiency usage in the Philippines. And some have used, they're changing all their motors into inverted control. In your speed control is continuous in this mga discrete, so the motors are becoming more efficient. A lot of industries know that they can save energy, so that's their switching. Okay? So, even sa industries ngayon, pupunta ka sa industries ngayon, mag-offer ka ng energy audit, hindi ka natatanggapin dahil ginagawa na nila. Dati noon, ini-initiate ng DOE. Kaya yung energy audit group ng DOE, wala nang trabaho yan. Offeran mo sila ng consultancy, mga ESCOs ngayon, magbibenta ng tapos may mga ano ba, hindi na, bibili na lang ako sa'yo, papalit ako. So, conscious na yung mga tao ngayon sa energy saving. I think a lot has been changing to LEDs. So that's the reason why from a 1.5, although wala na masyadong manufacturing ngayon, still that reduction in elasticity for me is already symptomatic of energy savings. Kaya kung sasabihin ng policy maker, let's go to energy savings, energy conservation. Nandiyan na yan eh. Ha? Ang naiwan na lang siguro na energy savings is yung human nature na kaya mo yung ilaw, kaya mo ginagamit kasi kuminsan dahil yung LED na yan, 3 watts na lang, so pwede na yan, kahit hindi na ginagamit, okay na yan, mura naman, di ba? So hindi mo na pinapatay. Tapos palagi kayo nakachat, palagi kayo ano, so kada charge ng battery ninyo, so mataas din ang consumption doon. So, reduce chat time, you will save on energy.
Questions from students? Yes.
Sir, do you see the Philippines in the near future tapping other sources of renewable energy like ocean energy, like current energy, tidal wave, etc.?
I think so. As long as the technology becomes economically competitive, the Philippines will adopt it. Siguro, ang kulang na lang natin, siguro maybe economies of scale lang din ang problema is that we don't do our own research on product improvement. Hinihintay lang natin na darating yung technology sa atin tapos taga-namin lang tayo. You know, technology has... Kaya, siyempre, babayaran natin yung development ng technology. Kagaya ng Tesla, pagdating ng battery na yan, mga kwan, we'll adapt it, palagay ko, di ba? But we'll pay for it. At saka, you know, when it comes to alternatives, okay, the way I see businessmen is that they always think, and Tito can correct me kasi matagal na siyang consultant, they always think of avoided cost. Kahit alam nilang they can produce it cheaper, ibebenta nila yung technology nila sa iyo doon sa competitive technology. Kasi avoided cost ka eh. So it doesn't mean that if there is a breakthrough in one technology that the price has gone down dramatically. Okay? If the prevailing technology is, let's say, coal, they will adapt their price to coal. Okay. Kung gusto nila maging competitive, they might drop it a little, but not so much. Okay? Kasi yun yung pa rin. If you don't buy them, your alternative is a coal. So you might as well. That's the way I see it. Kasi if you ask itong mga nagbebenta ng solar, saka nagbebenta ng wind, sabi ko sa kanila, baka gusto mong makatulong sa Pilipinas, bawasan mo naman yung presyo mo. Ha? Ayaw nila eh, di ba? Okay. Sabi mo, you talk about climate change kasi dapat Pilipinas mag-solar para mag-contribute sa climate change. Tanong mo sa anong contribution mo? Gusto mo magbawas ng presyo mo? Hindi naman daw. Business is business when it comes to technology. Yun ang natutuhan ko nung lumabas ako sa academia.
As a former government official and ngayon po executive ng Renewables Energy Company, what is your take on nuclear energy po sa Philippines?
As I've said, nuclear energy should not be discounted as part of your energy mix. But there are challenges that you have to deal with. Important dyan, public acceptance, safety concerns, etc. And technically, you can read this, hindi pa rin nasosolve yung waste disposal ng spent waste at saka yung decommissioning cost ng nuclear. So hindi pa yan nasosolve technically. But it will be, you should not discount it. But if you're a policy maker, you have to sell it to the public. Kasi although sabi nilang walang emission yan, the safety is an issue. And it will always be an issue because of what happened in Fukushima, yung 3 Mile Island, etc. Kahit sabihin mong low probability yan, 0.001 times the impact, pag minultiply mo yung impact niya saka yung probability, malaki rin yan. Okay. Now, what is needed probably is, it takes time to educate the public on this nuclear thing. Okay. So, I don't know kung sinong gobyerno mag-i-start. Baka itong gobyerno mag-i-start kasi pag-aaralan daw nila. But I don't think you can do that in 5 years, 6 years or what. Okay. Matagal din ang nuclear na ngayon, 8 years na yata. Baka by the time na sinimulan mo ngayon, iba na. Hindi na millennials yung mga bata na. If you put nuclear now, kayo yung magmamana ng waste disposal, basta kayo decommissioning cost. So,
Questions? still have 20 minutes. For no question and answer. Any other questions? There are no more questions. I'm going to call Dr. Hizon for the wording of token certificate.
Dami na natin.
Yeah, hirap kata yung close nito. Anecdote muna. When I was still an undergrad, so yung isa sa mga professors namin was telling us na swerte kayo. Pasalamat kayo kay President Ramos. Sabi namin, sir, bakit po? Kasi kinuha niyang secretary, si Dr. Binay. Alam niyo naman pa yung librong ginagamit niyo ngayon. So, isa siya sa mga nag-challenge sa mga students noong time na really excel. And I think, yung one of the reasons kung bakit nandito sa ganitong level ng AAI is because of pioneer faculty members like Dean Geray, who have led yung efforts before to really look at policies and the power industry. Actually, sensitive, in terms of technology, power industry, isa sa pinaka-sensitive. Dahil ramdam kagad ng tao yung changes with regards dun sa policy or kung anumang decisions gagawin with regards dun sa mix ng energy sources. And as we were challenged earlier by Dean Geray, I'd like to assure him that the Institute will continue yung legacy na sinimulan nila. But we will be at the forefront in trying to solve or see how we can use technology to solve the problems of the power industry. Good calls po yung kanina, no? Regarding yung all-DC system. It's something na parang niluluto na namin ngayon together with the power people and the power electronics people. Microgrids is currently being started by Mike Escoto. And that's an initiative that we will continue. And as we move forward, siguro yun nga, pati siguro yung paggawa ng mga motor, sisimulan na rin namin. Pwede magsimula muna kami sa mga electric vehicles because that would be a good starting point. But later on, yun, we want to improve the efficiency of DC systems. So, yun lang, I hope you can stay with us kasi yun, marami pang ambition sa institute. And if you really want to have that technical background and yung challenge to be able to push technology forward, yun, I challenge you to be part of this dynamic institution. And to Dean Geray, thank you for always guiding us. Nandito po kami lagi para tumulong. We'll always be a partner in trying to see kung paano magbabago yung policy. And we'd like to produce a technology na applicable talaga sa Pilipinas. So, that's a promise. And with that, ayun, I'd like to give this certificate of appreciation to Dr. Francisco Geray. Yes, sabi ko na, no? SEE 1970. Dito rin siya nakapagtapos ng master's niya 1973. And then he decided to do the PhD in the US. So for his invaluable sharing of knowledge and experience as a resource speaker for our centennial year as our distinguished alumni. And with that, sir, maraming pong salamat.